First of all, I agree that it can be a mistake.
Yeah.
In fact, it always is a mistake unless there's anything to it, obviously. And I think people have to be aware of that. And I think broadly speaking, at any rate in Europe, we are aware of that. We have, if anything, rather too strong antibodies to any discussion in this area.
I agree.
The expectation, the ability to claim fascism or xenophobia, for instance, is too easily used. For instance, let me give an example. Why have we fallen? I owe this observation to my friend Eric Weinstein, who mentioned this to me on stage recently in Australia. Why have we fallen for this idea that if you are a restrictionist on immigration, you are also a xenophobe? I'm a restrictionist on immigration, and I'm a xenophile, if anything. I don't hate people from other places. I'm very interested in other places. I don't just want to sit in Kent for the rest of my life. I happen to love Kent, by the way. No, but, you know, I don't want to do that. I don't only want to speak to people from the same county or anything. But why do we have nothing in our political language to concede that you can be a restrictionist and a xenophile? We don't. If you want to restrict immigration, it's because you hate people of different coloured skins. You must hate other cultures. You must only want to eat a certain type of food for the rest of your life and only speak to people from the same village or whatever. It's unbelievably crass that at this point we're still at that level of debate on all of this, and we are. You mentioned this, this issue, by the way, of, you said something which I made my ears perk up. You said this thing of that America needs good people. I don't disagree. I think it's just too easy a point to make without making the opposite point, which is, okay, in that case, who do you think are bad people? Mm-hmm. Now, this is the real problem that we have with all discussion on immigration. Everybody says that everybody is just great, and nobody wants to say what's bad. And there's a reason for that built into the whole thing, certainly in Europe. I don't want to talk about the case of America for now, but in the case of Europe, it's for one particular reason. You say, why didn't we do a better job in persuading people to become part of this amazing thing that we've had? The obvious reason is because we didn't expect this to happen. We never planned for this. We never planned for it. When post-war migration started, it did not start with the expectation that we would get to where we are now. It just started. And as Angela Merkel said in the Potsdam speech in 2010, she said about the Gastarbeiter in Germany and across Europe, she said, after they came, we thought they would go home. Now that's an amazing, amazing admission to make from the German Chancellor. We didn't think they would stay. Now, if you invite in millions of people into your country from, in their case, mainly from Turkey, it's likely that if you invite in millions of Turkish men may well want to meet Turkish women, or at least women. And when men meet women, some things happen, I'm told. And if that happens, it's likely that they're going to have to enter the school system. Oh, of course. It's not as if you can pretend, keep them out. And you're going to enter the health, and so on and so forth. And then before you know it, you change your idea. You say, well, we'd like you to come and do these jobs, and oh, you're staying. Okay, fine. We need to take an attitude towards that. And you invent various attitudes towards it. And for a time, we said, sure, you just do whatever you want, pretty much. And then we said, actually, you should become like us. So I also do not blame an individual immigrant for that. If I were an immigrant who had come to Britain in the 1950s, and had gone through to now, I would be bloody confused about what was expected of me. Absolutely confused. And that is not their fault, it's ours. I absolutely agree. But that's because, as I say, there was no overarching theory about this whole thing. It started, it kept going, and we had to keep adapting where we were as a response to that. And that's why we're in this strange position now where, as I say, you cannot, for instance, argue anything that is restrictionist without these whole loads of other things coming in. The final point on that, which is, I mean, you can't, even now, if I say to a politician, and I do it occasionally because I like to see them sometimes suffer.
Yes.
If you say to a politician live on a stage, if either of you were a serving politician from either of the main parties, and I said to you, who do we not want more of in Britain? Now, I know what happens, because I've seen it. Their eyes go like saucers. They see their political demise happen in the next few seconds. Headlines, excommunication from the party, and so on. The most I managed once with a smart young Labour politician, I managed to get her to say that she thought we shouldn't have more criminals. And I said, well, what about some poor boy from Tunisia, say, who stole something from the local market and went to prison for that, but what, he shouldn't come? Well, no, we don't want more war criminals. So there are about 4 guys in The Hague who are going to be there for life and are not applying to come to live in London. Okay, so if that's the best we can do, we're in trouble. But for the time being, it is the best we can do. And I don't say, I said that'd be a final point. My final point on that point is that this is the major problem on immigration we're all in. We all want to talk the language of inclusion, and rightly so, because we need to include people who are here. But the language of inclusion necessitates a language of exclusion. Not just what you do want to include, but what you exclude. And the point you make, I mean, it's now become, if I may say so, it's become something of a cliche, the FGM debate, but let's stick with it for a second. Which is, you know, London Evening Standard a couple of years ago starts a campaign, Stop FGM in our capital. We've got prominent politicians from all parties coming out against FGM. What a terrific paper the London Evening Standard is to be doing this, and so on and so forth. Still, of course, as we all know, not one prosecution for that crime here. But, you know, there's been total political unanimity. You can now be opposed to it, like the London Evening Standard. It's not the wacky thing it was 15 years ago to oppose the mutilation of young girls' genitals. And still nothing happens. Yeah. And just as a thought experiment, what should be easier to oppose than that? Don't hack away like that and ruin the lives of young girls. Please. Oh, after 30 years, still nothing happens, but at least we can run front pages about it.